the number of protection orders not served, both interim and final. And my apologies to members of the committee. We made a slight adjustment to the figures for the Western Cape. The figures as indicated on the presentation that was distributed to members were just updated following an input that was received from the Provincial Commissioner. And in terms of the number of protection orders not served, the difficulty that SAPS has in that regard is respondents who have moved, who are not at the address that was initially communicated, as well as incomplete addresses being provided in terms of the protection order applications. In terms of the utilization of domestic violence registers, they are in use at all police stations. Quarterly reports in respect of those registers are submitted to the Divisional Commissioner of Visible Policing for analysis, monitoring and evaluation. And there are substantial benefits in terms of the monitoring that is done on them. The number of incidents and cases reported per month gives an indication of the prevalence of domestic violence within a station precinct, allowing SAPS to be proactive. The domestic violence register also provides insight into the nature of assistance provided and could be utilized in the information contained in the registers to inform the investigation of GBV-related cases. The GBVF-related performance indicators that have been included in the SAPS's annual performance plan. Firstly, reduced availability of liquor. The target there was 90% closure of identified illegal liquor outlets, and we achieved 100% with 1,552 being identified and closed. Reduced levels of crime and GBVF, our strengthened community partnerships there, police stations rendering a victim-friendly service to victims of crime, the target being 100%, and all 1,155 police stations were compliant with 2 of the 3 set criteria in terms of the victim-friendly service that is provided. The next set of indicators is reduced violence against women and children, reduction in the number of contact crimes, both against women and children. The target was a 6.9% reduction. We had a 7.8% increase from 24723 during the first quarter of 1920 to 26658, and a similar tendency in terms of contact crimes against children, which increased by 9.7%. And this may also indicate increased confidence in the SAPS in terms of the community's willingness to report these crimes to the organization. Reduced levels of violence against women, detection rate for crimes against women. The target there was 75.15. The result at the end of the first quarter, 72.67, and this will improve during the course of the year. Percentage reduction in outstanding case dockets related to crimes against women. The target was a 5% reduction, and a 25.97% reduction was achieved. Detection rate for crimes against children, the target was 70.1%, 66.53% was the result at the end of the first quarter, and a similar tendency in terms of the reduction in outstanding case dockets. We had a 24.52% reduction in outstanding case dockets related to crimes against children. Honorable Chairperson, thank you. That is the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to General Sithole, Deputy Minister, and those who have done the presentations. Allow me to once again please raise the following with the members. We have to do the presentations because these meetings are recorded. Some of our meetings and most of our meetings are live. And for the sake of the public, we have to allow presentations. There are members who have also raised this, and I think it's rather unfortunate that we're raising through the media that the presentations are too long and we shouldn't be doing presentations. We have certain recommendations and procedures which have been set out by the House Chair or the Chair of Chairs. So these presentations are requested, and we thank SAPS, General Sithole, Deputy Minister, for the thorough presentations we have received thus far. I'll take hands now. I have noted the Honourable Whitfield. That's the only hand I have. Faku, Meshu, Groenewald, Ter Blanche. Could I take the set of hands now? Whitfield, and then Faku, Meshu, and then Groenewald and Ter Blanche. You may start, Whitfield. Honourable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to thank the SAPS for a very comprehensive presentation. And I'm going to focus on a topic that is I'm passionate about, which is DNA. And as the committee will be aware, last year it was exposed that there were insufficient sexual assault evidence collection kits across the country. And I would argue that in the, obviously with GBV chairperson, prevention is better than cure. But nonetheless, if we can't prevent incidents of GBV sufficiently, we need to be able to ensure that we can prosecute people properly. And I just wanted to hear from SAPS whether they are comfortable that there are sufficient sexual assault evidence collection kits of all types available in all provinces. I'd also like to raise a concern, Chair, that I've been raising since last year, which is the Forensic Procedures Bill, and perhaps Mr. Rapier from the Civilian Secretariat could speak to that either during his presentation or in response to this question. The bottom line, Chairperson, is that we have over 46,000 Schedule 8 convicted offenders in our prison system whose DNA samples have not been added to the National DNA Register. This is a major, major problem. And it does not appear that the Minister is serious about bringing this to Parliament. And I think this committee would do very well to apply the pressure required to bring this important piece of legislation.
Honourable Whitfield, may I please interrupt you? My apologies. Could we please have the presentation removed so that we could see the honourable members when they ask their questions? Could we remove the presentation? Thank you. Honourable Whitfield.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Apologies for interrupting you. Honourable Whitfield, you may continue.
Thank you. And sorry to disappoint you. You won't be seeing me this morning due to connectivity issues. It's easier for me to keep my camera off. But with respect to that bill will go a long way in assisting us to ensure that those convicted of previous crimes can be connected to future crimes and ensure that they spend a longer time in prison. We need an update on that bill, please, Chairperson. The other concern, Chair, is that you will be aware that the South African Police Service has not presented their Q4 performance report to Parliament for the 2019-2020 financial year. However, you will recall as well that in March we received the Q3 report, and in that presentation we discussed the fact that the National Forensic Science Laboratory's performance was catastrophic. From Q1 at 93% down to 74% in Q2, it literally fell off the cliff in Q3 down to below 20% of DNA case exhibits analyzed within the required 90 days. I believe that backlog is now escalated to close to 100,000 DNA case exhibits, many of which will be GBV related, Chairperson. We need to get that Q4 report. We need the response from SAPS as to what is the crisis with the forensic laboratories. I'm aware that they are coming to the committee, Chair, but we can't wait another week or two to get the answers we need to ensure that we tackle this issue head on. I would then like to also ask by when SAPS believes they will have the DNA analysis capability up and running in the Eastern Cape laboratory. I think it's critical that the load is spread across the country so that we're able to mitigate against any backlogs, because as I've said before, DNA delayed is justice denied, Chairperson, for many, many victims of these horrific crimes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Faku, and then Honourable Meshu. Honourable Mapatso have noted your hand. Honourable Faku, you may continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself and to Deputy Minister and members. Chairperson, I think as a gender activist myself, I must say that...
Again, sorry, apologies, Faku, would it be possible for you to turn on your video? Or do you have connectivity problems?
It's turned on, Chair.
All right, thank you. You may continue. There we have you.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. First, let us welcome the presentation from SAPS. I think, Chair, myself as a gender activist, I must say that one is impressed with what is on the presentation. We hope that what the presentation is giving us today, that most of the things that have been said will be implemented. At least there is improvement, Chairperson. You know, I'm from the Eastern Cape. I must thank the Provincial Commissioner of the Eastern Cape. Whenever I have issues, even station commanders of gender-based violence issues, they are easily accessible, especially where my constituency office is in Oxford Street, where I will call the station commander of Gunumbi Police Station and the one in Oxford Street. They are very accessible and they are very helpful. So even when we go to court, police, they are accommodating us. So we appreciate that. And as we are visiting police stations around the country, you can see at least the friendly victim centers in the police station. They are there, rape kits are there. But one must also appreciate the training of SAPS on gender-based violence-related issues. I think that is one thing that we need to appreciate. And I think as a committee, we've been emphasizing on that police must be trained on gender-based violence issues. Also to empower SAPS on human rights issues. I think that is one of the cornerstones that because sometimes even the studies show that when people go to police station, that police women are the ones that victims feels more comfortable in talking with. So I would really appreciate perhaps the Deputy Minister that women are allocated in those areas, but also we want men to be there to understand when a young lady or a child comes in and say they are raped. I also appreciate part of the presentation, the coordination of gender-based violence structures. If we do this, Chairperson, you would never have gender-based violence issues as we have currently. So if those structures are coordinated at a provincial, at a local level, like where you have your CPFs, if we can have this, I think it will help us as well. I see that they are saying that they are going to host gender-based violence sexual campaigns. My questions will be, when will this be done and where? I hope you will also use community radios with different languages that are in South Africa. Let us also appreciate the development of the victim identification database. I think this will help us a lot. And I hope that this information will be escalated down to even ward councillors. So ward councillors can post this information. But also, Chairperson, let us appreciate the 200 allocation of social workers in police station. My question I wanted to ask in terms of time frames, what are we talking about? When will these social workers be allocated? We want more than 200, of course. I think DM, you need to have more negotiation. We have a lot of interns when it comes to social workers who are currently unemployed. I think we must utilize that opportunity. Let us also appreciate the reduction on crime against women and children. It's -6%. It's a great achievement. Of course, there's more that needs to be done. But what I have discovered that these crimes are mainly done by people whom we trust. It's our brothers, it's our pastors, it's people that we trust, our own fathers, our husbands. So I think it's important that as you are doing this campaign, churches are involved, all stakeholders are involved, so that we make sure that all of us fight gender-based violence. It's not only an issue of South African police services, but it's an issue of all of us. But also I wanted to raise the issue, Chairperson, of the protection orders. You know, people don't take protection orders very seriously. I see that like in the Eastern Cape, 514 were issued, but 124 were received. So I think the provincial commissioner must have a strategy around that there must be people that are allocated to deal with the issue of protection orders. But generally, there's an improvement, especially during the lockdown for us people that have been in and out of courts listening to gender-based violence. The police have done investigation within a short period of time. Within 14 days, a person will be arrested or 1 day. I appreciate that. I've been there. We must say, Chairperson, when good things are done. So let us appreciate the investigation have been done, and most offenders have not received any bail from justice. And I think it's one thing that as a committee we must say that we are proud, because at times we are told that SAPS is not doing the investigation. But in the past months, especially during the COVID-19, there's been a lot of arrest, but more needs to be done. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Thaku. Honorable Mesha and then Groenewald.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me also start by appreciating the presentation we received this morning. My first question has to do with the provincial GBV committees. I want to know how they will be elected, what will be their functions, to whom will they be reporting, and to be able to function efficiently, will they be getting any stipend or not? And secondly, they spoke about developing proactive, preventative GBV programs. Now, as we are told that most of the domestic violence issues happen within the home, how are they going to ensure that these programs becomes effective, because they cannot see what's happening behind closed doors in the privacy of people? And then they also spoke about profiling perpetrators. This is going to be a challenge, and I'm keen to know how do you profile perpetrators? Are they not going to work on suspicions and wrong people are arrested? Or how are they really going to profile perpetrators of GBV? And regarding the backlog, they said the GBV backlog currently stands at 28,465. This number is very high. What are the contributory reasons why this number is this high? Is it because of shortage of manpower? Is it because of delicate cases they are dealing with, and the people that have not yet been assisted? Obviously, they are complaining, they are losing hope because they see the perpetrators in the streets with them. And lastly, when an 8-year-old child has been raped and molested by a person who's known in the community, and a request is made to the courts not to grant that person bail, and the perpetrator is given bail and goes and intimidates a young 8-year-old child. In such a case, what can be done to protect children? Because it is very traumatic, particularly if a child has to go to school and they see their violator almost every day. And when the violator sees this child, they point the finger at them. Is there nothing more that the police can do in their, I know that they are not the ones who give bails. There are times when the police would say bail should be denied and the courts still give bail. But in the interest of protection of children, is there anything more that can be done, or is there nothing that can be done? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. My apologies. Thank you.
Can you note me, Chair Majosi?
Yes, Honorable Majosi, you come after Mapatse. Could I have Groenewald now and then Ter Blanche?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear, and your visuals are good. Thank you very much. You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, firstly, I want to say that it is custom that when we deal with a specific subject, that we get well-prepared presentations and submissions from the police services. But the question I have, Chairperson, is yes, everything sounds very good, but the question remains, what is happening in practice? We have all these plans and all these strategies, but my problem is that there are still too many cases with what we can see, and we do see specifically on the social media, where, for instance, women going to police stations are turned away, are actually some of them even been raped further and all that sort of things. So my question is, do we really ensure that what we want to happen in practice, does that materialize? And I don't see it, Chairperson. For instance, if you go and look, and the Secretariat, for instance, did some findings on a census where they visited all the 1,143 police stations in South Africa in terms of the compliance to the Domestic Violence Act. And the startling finding is that only 21 police stations, only 21 of the 1,143 stations were fully compliant with the provisions of the Domestic Violence Act. And only 66% of those police stations had victim-friendly rooms that are functional and resourced. Now, my first question is, Chairperson, only 21 police stations and only 66% are compliant as far as victim-friendly rooms are concerned. And I would like to know what practical steps are going to be taken to ensure that this specific situation changes so that we can ensure that there is protection for the victims of domestic violence. My second question, Chairperson, is that I see as far as the immediate interventions to address the gender-based violence during the lockdown and beyond, is that research has been taken or conducted research to understand gender-based violence and the trends thereof, and which has been associated with the COVID lockdown. Now, my question is, did the research started? Who is doing the research to understand gender-based violence? And when will we be able to receive a report on this research? Because it is very important that we get that research to see what we can learn from that and to see how we effectively can fight gender-based violence to reduce it. Lastly, I also want to add to the backlog of the forensics, Chairperson, and I see on slide 20 that the target was initially to reduce the backlog to 5,000 by the end of 31 March of 2020. Now that was just, the lockdown started on the 26th of March. So I firstly want to know that we obtained that target because I don't see it. And currently the backlog stands on 28,000. What is the new target date? And if we have date, what is the target as far as the reduction of those cases are concerned? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Groenewald. Honourable de Blanche.
Chairperson, thank you. I also want to start with, thanking the police for the presentation. It's indeed a very good presentation. But you know, if you go and do oversight at police stations, unfortunately, I must be very, very clear to say that you find a different picture. I also wanted to refer to the 21 police stations. Only 21 police stations comply. And then, you know, 66 had victim-friendly rooms. Now, if you go to the police targets for 2021, there is a target set that 100% of police stations must apply during this financial year. Chairperson, I have a problem with that in the sense, and I want an explanation, because I'm also aware that all capital works, stuff like that, came to sort of a stop. So how are they going to comply with this? This is my first question. Secondly, Chairperson, in the question and answer session that we had the other day, the minister himself acknowledged that the registers at the police stations are not properly kept. And, you know, if that is the case, obviously the information that the management of the police are getting on the different levels are skewed. And then obviously they cannot do proper planning. Chairperson, if you know, that was also mentioned by my colleague Whitfield, you know, about, you know, the forensic laboratory. There are, Chairperson, you know, in total, I think something like 100,000 investigations that cannot be done due to lack of maintenance, lack of renewal of contracts, consumables, stuff like that. Chairperson, this is not a good picture at all. And I'm really very concerned about that. And then lastly, Chairperson, if you go to the police stations again, the people are suffering the most are people in rural areas. You know, after hours, you are very lucky if you find one police official on duty there. And these people need to be, you know, assisted by medical experts and stuff like that. That is not readily available in rural areas, Chairperson. And I just need an explanation on that as well. How do the police intend to rectify that? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable de Blanche, are you done?
Chairperson, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Mapatsa.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me also join other honorable members of welcoming the presentation from the SAPS. I think this is it's encouraging, this presentation so far. It is different to other presentation, although more needs to be done, but at least there is something that shows that SAPS is doing something about the gender-based violence. As we have explained, that at least now there is integrated work with other departments, which is what we've been talking about, that the more integrated department deals with the gender-based violence. The president addressed it as what we call a pandemic on the 17th of June. As a result, what we have observed, it's an increase of our people beginning to have confidence in our police. They don't talk about other departments. They are beginning to have confidence in the police, and there's an increase in the reporting of in the police stations. But as we said last time, that the president also mentioned it in his speech, that most of these things, they happened, it's domestic where the police cannot be able to be there on time. They will only hear when the person comes to the police station, or if somebody has passed. Or just to raise one, Honorable Chair, where my constituents come from. One of them is Proteat Land in extension 24. I will discuss it outside of this, but just that over the weekend, a woman and the two children aged 10 and 14, the woman is 58, children 10 and 14, were found murdered, their throats cut. Fortunately, the neighbors, checking each other. It's only after 2 days they found out that this thing happened. And when the JMPD person who stays next to the neighbor jumped the wall and broke into the window and found out this bad thing that has happened. I hope I will speak to the police after this. I agree with Honorable Groenewald on the issue of out of 1,143, only 21 police stations were fully compliant. I think it's not a good thing, although we appreciate. That's why I'm saying this is a good appreciation. It has got a program of action that this is what you are going to do. But let's see it in action. We are going to do our oversight, monitor what you have presented to us. It is good. I appreciate. It's not that they just come and present nice things. They know the work. How serious is this thing of gender-based violence? That is why they've presented a very good document, and we're going to hold them accountable to this thing. But it's not only them. It is only upon us as members of parliament, when we do our constituency work, to be able to work with our people and explain to them about the gender-based violence, so that it should not be a police thing. We come and hold them accountable. Yes, we'll hold them accountable if they don't do their work. So I'm happy, Chairperson Ming, with the presentation, accept those concerns, and I'm very happy that they have brought now all the teams. So anyone who's got a question is able to answer according to his province, and they're going to be responses. So that's a good way of how we should work with the police department, because answers are here immediately. But I think lastly, Chair, as I conclude, is the issue of this integrated work that we should put very hard on the NPA, because every people say investigating of the police is very poor, very poor, very poor. Sometimes it's not the issue. It is the issue of how you discuss in court. You know how you discuss in court. If the police have good lawyers that can argue for that, that's what is important, because investigators will do their work, but you find a good lawyer who will just crack that thing. But working together with the NPA, tightening up the case, I think it will assist this thing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mapatse. The last person from the committee to speak would be Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies. I won't be able to turn on the video because it has been taking me in and out of the committee. I think my network is very bad this side, but it's due to the load shedding that is happening at the present moment. Chair and honorable members, also the DM and the SAPS. No, let us appreciate and welcome the presentation. It's a good program of action, and I think we can work with that one. But I just wanted to check, Chairperson, in terms of, and I've been raising this thing for a long time, that I know that they are supposed to train police officers to take care of the domestic violence cases, the rape cases, and so forth. But if it is possible that maybe they can also get interns of social workers, people who are properly trained on counseling people and on being able to make that one person speak, because it's one thing when a person comes to a police station, and it's another thing when you will have to explain what brings you to the police station. And also, Chairperson, we must take into consideration that the domestic violence, maybe it has decreased this time because of the lockdown. I had several honorable members speaking about it, that it might be because of the lockdown regulations, which require other people to be indoors and to work at home. So you will never know what transpires in those homes. So I wanted us to check if how then do we will be able to solve those cases, and maybe we should wait up until level 1, and then maybe they open the country so that we see how many women will come to the police stations and report these cases. But nonetheless, Chairperson, the program that they have presented today, it brings hope. At least we'll see that there will be positive outcomes, but only it does not depend on them, as Honorable Mafatso has said, that it does not depend on them only, it depends also on us as this portfolio committee, that what is it that we do, Chairperson. I think we must then, with this program of action that they have presented, it's upon us that we do our own oversight, that we see all these things that are being presented today, that they are there in police stations, so that we know what is it that we are dealing with, and we were able, when they come back to report, we are able also to give them a report back to say we have been in these police stations, we have been doing this, and this has been this is what we have found. But my last point, Chair, would be that I would want to ask if they will be able to be invited in dialogues that would be hosted maybe by different constituencies. We've got constituencies, Chairperson, and as level 2 regulation allows that maybe you can have those as long as it is 50 people inside. So as much as we can touch as many women who would like that to happen, Chairperson. So I want to know if maybe they will be able to be invited in those dialogues that would be hosted, and also they must provide then for different provinces who do we contact in terms of inviting them to come and present on gender-based violence, on domestic, and how then do we report such cases. I would really appreciate that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Peacock, I've noted you, but I will give you an opportunity to speak as the first speaker after the crime stats. I would like to give the police deputy minister an opportunity to respond so that we could start with the crime stats. Deputy Minister General Sitole, please bear in mind that we are coming to the end of Women's Month. As Honorable Whitfield has also said, the Q4 performance report is still outstanding. We will arrange and schedule a meeting for that. So I'll allow the Deputy Minister to introduce, and then the SAPS to respond to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We take note of what members are saying, both with compliments and those that say we must go and do more, but we have not done much around the compliance. the figures that were outlined. So take note of that. What please allow me to ask the team in responding to the technical questions that have been asked. Thank you. Hello, sir.
We may have SAPS to respond. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity, and thanks to the DM for the lead. Chair, let me start by expressing our appreciation to the comments that has been made by honorable members. I think it's also giving SAPS the hope to move forward, and surely if we are able to utilize some of the inputs that we're getting from the honorable members, we are then likely to finish the Women's Month on a high note as far as gender-based violence is concerned. Chair, I will respond to the matters that requires strategic response, and I will leave the rest to the operatives, and then they will provide the flesh to some of the questions. I wanted to start with the last one, Chair, on the dialogues, and indicate to the Chair that we, among others, we started a community outreach approach with regard to gender-based violence, and I'm sure some honorable members might have viewed the latest imbizo that was held a day before yesterday, which was then also extended to, I'm sure it's 94 community radio stations across the country. We have therefore decided to declare a mobilization war against gender-based violence. We will be extremely happy to be invited into those dialogues across the country, and each and every provincial commissioner working together with visible policing, we will be able to work with honorable members, because we think if we convey sufficient message to the gender-based violence victims and create sufficient awareness, we will then be able to strengthen the prevention leg. So we are open. Then there was a question by the first honorable member with regard to whether the evidence kits are sufficient or not. Maybe for now, let me say that, one, we do not have a shortage, and we do not have a crisis. And the instruction that I have issued to supply chain at national level is that our constant monitoring should be focused on where the stock levels are going down. But due to modus operandi development, I think evidence kits may never be enough, because once the sporadic modus operandi advancement in a specific area, then they will immediately shoot us on a shortage for that particular crisis. But for now, stock levels are sufficient, and there's a monitoring process in place across the country. And I also further ordered that we place more orders for the future, so that we make sure that we've got sufficient stocks. Then the other question is with regard to quarter four. I think we we will be ready to present, that is the quarter 4 as per the demand of the portfolio committee. And we have taken note of the concerns about forensic. One thing I can highlight is that the forensic division has been one of those divisions of concern in the organization, and is also one of those divisions that has stayed for quite some time now without a divisional commissioner. But in order to ensure stability in this particular environment, I have also then appointed the divisional commissioner permanently a day before yesterday. So it's just waiting for the ratification of the minister. So there's now going to be stability in this particular environment. And moving forward, I do not foresee any other problems that we should experience further. I think he will also then attend to the other questions pertaining to the backlog and other matters. Then the Eastern Cape, firstly, we made a commitment, which was via the Deputy Minister during the declaration and the pronouncement of the District Commissioner in the Eastern Cape, that we will be providing the DNA processing in the Eastern Cape. But then, firstly, that was subject to a procurement process which was disturbed a bit by lockdown. But then I have then issued an instruction. We have escalated this matter up to a point where the service provider is actually ready to deliver. I think it's 5 of the mobile units, which will then be over and above Eastern Cape. There's gonna be 4 other districts that are critical, which will get these mobile units. But we are just waiting now for Treasury to give us the final authorization, and immediately we get that final authorization, then the supplier is ready to deliver. So within a short space of time from now, we will be able to provide this service in the Eastern Cape. Then there was also a suggestion with regard to utilization of community radios. I just wanted to indicate that during this recent Imbizo, online Imbizo, we also engaged with GCIS. GCIS has actually advised us that they are open to link us with community radios, which is something that we could do even almost every week. But we have also realized that most of the gender-based violence victims, which are in the rural areas, they don't have access to services, and they don't have access to us, sufficient access and sufficient information how to respond to gender-based violence. And we decided to take further engagement based on further arrangements with GCIS, so that we use this as a permanent platform. And then immediately after our Imbizo tomorrow, we are going to engage with GCIS so that we expand on the community radios. Then the involvement of churches, we've obviously introduced the spiritual crime prevention concept, and we have a lot of support from the church leaders who are willing to get involved in this particular concept, and we are going to use it as part and parcel of mobilization. Then there was a question on the prevention of gender-based violence in the home environment with regard to how we're going to do it. But I wanted to put a scenario to the committee, and at the same time asking for the support of the committee. I think our root causes at the present moment, our root causes analysis, I think it shows a combination which I think we must all provide a response to. Currently, the latest studies has uncovered that South Africa is ranked number 5 in liquor abuse and is ranked number 4 as the most violent countries in the world. Then you during the lockdown and now you had both of these two locked in the so-called family structure because most of the people were within their home. So those who have been using alcohol or abusing it, and it will combine with violence within the home. Then there's moral fiber deterioration where the father sees the child as a girlfriend, is inside the house. The uncle sees the child as a girlfriend, is inside the house. And we've got a good example in the Eastern Cape. One of our junior commissioners has been impregnated by the uncle. It's in the family structure. Now we are sitting with several collapsed family structures, which I think we need to respond to through education and awareness, family education and all that, and change this. Then you go to the environmental design. Uncontrolled development is taking its toll. What you then have there, additional, is your unused buildings, which are used as brothels. They are used as human trafficking factories, and I think they all encourage gender-based violence, but we need to provide a response to this. As a police, we decided this is an area we need to focus on, but it obviously doesn't require a policing solution alone. It requires us all to respond together. And that through awareness, we intend to get to the houses so that we educate, we sensitize, we create awareness. But through the modus operandi analysis, the gender-based modus operandi analysis, we also want to constantly make the public aware, irrespective of where they are, of the gender-based violence modus operandi. And that's the response we want to provide. The protection of children, we've taken note of it. We think we are going to make it a cluster issue because it will require us, the NPA, as well as justice, the whole criminal justice value system, to find a way. And one of the things that we might need to be looking at as the police, we will issue an instruction that when we oppose bail, we indicate that the existence of children in that particular type of a case, so that it become part and parcel of the factors that we raise to create more weight in order to oppose bail. Then research, I think we do have our own research within SAPS, but gender-based violence is an integrated research subject. We have spoken about it at the level of the cluster, and we intend to commission it at the level of the cluster so that it become integrated. Then the medical attention in the rural areas, I think firstly, as SAPS, we are working on the rapid service delivery access strategy, where we create a service delivery access to the victims of gender-based violence so that we can strengthen our response. But the medical side is the role of the Department of Health, and what we're going to do here, we're going to escalate it at cluster level, and we then further escalate it to inter-cluster coordination so that we can engage with the Department of Health to assist with the provision to those gender-based violence. The input with regard to utilization of social worker interns, I think it's a positive input. we will look at it through our community in blue concept and even including the reservist concept, but we'll look at how the volunteer would be treated as far as this particular aspect is concerned. With your permission, Chair, if I could just open for I have deputy national commissioners and divisional commissioners, but I also have provinces who are connected if they've got specific questions. With your permission, Chair, can I open for deputy national commissioners first?
General Sitole, with all due respect, I think your presentation has been very good and all the members have commended you for a good presentation. Could I please deal with the matter in the following way? I've noted that the Civilian Secretariat has also prepared a presentation of DM and General Sitole. However, we have dealt with the matter very comprehensively through your presentation and your responses. I would rather request that the provincial commissioners and the deputy commissioners assist us with the responses to the crime statistics, and that honorable members, we allow the General Sitole and the team to now start with the crime statistics. Civilian Secretariat, please, I have not overlooked you, and I certainly have looked at your presentation. It's a good presentation, but most of it has been covered in the presentation of SAPS. So thank you very much for those presentations on gender-based violence. I think we have managed to do this within the Women's Month, August Women's Month. But as we do continue with the program of 365 days of the year for Women's Month, let us ensure that this very good program is implemented. We have very good strategies, we have very good programs, but the implementation of these programs more often than not is not that sufficient. Honorable members, I'm now going to take the crime statistics of the first quarter of 2020 from the first. Honorable Whitfield.
Chairperson, just a concern, if you would note it. Earlier in the meeting, you said that we have to present all the presentations because the meetings are public. There are questions relating to the Forensic Procedures Bill. There are responses to members which have not been provided by SAPS to the SAPS GBV presentation. So I'm afraid I don't support moving on in the manner which you've proposed if this meeting is to be meaningful. Thank you.
I understand. I do understand that a number of these questions have not been responded to. It has been the practice of the SAPS and this meeting that they do provide us with written responses where they have not given us the responses in the meeting. Could I then request that we do have the written responses from SAPS? I'm going to allow Honorable Mapatswe. You also have a comment or a point of order? Honorable Mapatswe, do you have a point of order?
Did I raise my hand, Chair?
Yes, Honorable Mapatswe.
No, hey, this BBT person. Hey. No, I'm sorry, my apology, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you very much. Could we then commence with the presentation on the crime statistics, and that all those responses be noted, and that we continue. Honorable members. Deputy Minister, if you can introduce the crime statistics, please.
Thanks, Chair. These are a response to the decision of Cabinet that crime stats will be released quarterly, and this is our first response to that for the first quarter, April to June 2021 for this financial year. I will therefore request that the National Commissioner be allowed through you, Chair, to make the presentation through the necessary people that are assigned to do that. Over to you, National Commissioners, through you, National Chair. I, as chairperson of the committee.
You may continue, National Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for the lead. Chair, our presentation on crime stats shall be led by Major General Kukuni, and with your permission, I can give him the floor.
Thank you, National Commissioner, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, members of the Portfolio Committee, the Deputy Minister, all protocol observed. I will be taking you through the first quarter of the 2020-2021 financial year crime statistics, covering the period from the 1st of April up to the 30th of June. Next slide, Craig. As is the norm, we start with the table of 17 community reported crimes, including the crime detected as a result of police action. This is the crux of the crime statistics, because these are the 17 community reported crimes that the South African Police Service is tracking, and we have also expatiated where necessary on other categories, like for instance, sexual offenses is further broken down into the 4 crimes that make up sexual offenses, which is rape, sexual assault, attempted sexual offenses, and contact sexual offenses. So that those 4 crimes are reported as sexual offenses. And then also in the robbery with aggravating circumstances, we also go down to the subcategories of those crimes. And we look at carjacking, robbery at residential, robbery at non-residential premises, robbery of cash in transit, bank robbery, and truck hijacking. So this expand on the 17, making them something like 23. But ideally, the crime that we are reporting on is the 17 community reported crimes and the 4 crimes detected as a result of police action. Now, as is the norm, again, we give a trend over a number of years covering the same period, starting with the crimes that are considered to be contact crimes or crimes against the person. For the current quarter, we had a reduction of murder by 1,932, sexual offenses, a decrease of 4,798, attempted murder, a decrease of 1,088, assault with intent to commit grievous bodily harm, a decrease of 15,361, common assault, a decrease of 10,190, common robbery, a decrease of 6,416, robbery with aggravating circumstances, a decrease of 14,106, and overall the broad category of contact crimes or crimes against person have decreased by 53,891 counts. Then underneath here, we see the crimes that are also reported under sexual offenses. Here we just expatiate in terms of what make up the broad category of sexual offenses. Starting with the rape, we had a decrease of 3,932, sexual assault, a decrease of 598, attempted sexual offenses, a decrease of 183, contact sexual offenses, a decrease of 85, and the total sexual offenses as above there has decreased by 4,798. Then the subcategories of robbery aggravating, which are also included in this, here we just expatiate on what are the other crimes that make up that category of robbery with aggravating circumstances. Carjacking, we've recorded a decrease of 1,873. Robbery at residential premises, a decrease of 1,208. Robbery at non-residential premises, a decrease of 1,759. Robbery of cash in transit, a decrease of 90. There were no bank robberies, and truck hijacking, a decrease of 85. Then the two crimes making up the broad category of contact-related crimes, which is asset and malicious damage to property, they both decreased, with asset decreasing by 310 and malicious damage to property decreasing by 7,666, and the broad category of contact-related crimes decreasing by 7,976. Next slide, Craig. Then in this slide, we have also taken just the contact crimes or the crimes against the person. And then we then asked the State SA to provide us with the 2017 mid-year population estimates. Then we then computed the ratios or the per 100,000. The reason for doing that, there has been a misnomer whereby after every publication of crime statistics, the commentators will simply take the number of days and divide it by the number of people that have been murdered. And then you hear comments like there have been 58 people that are murdered in South Africa per day. Well, that is a quotient, but then it is not statistical in a sense that statistics is a subject of probabilities. And for every year, there's an increase in the population. So as the population increases, the probability of a person being a victim of a crime also increases. Hence, the correct statistical way to go about it is to take the number of crimes that have been committed and divide it by the population. So we have done that where State SA provided us with the 2017 mid-year population estimates projected up to now, and then we computed the ratios. For murder, we had the ratio of 5.8 per 100,000. That means that out of 100,000 people, there is a probability that 5.8 people can be killed. So that is how the ratios are interpreted vis-a-vis what has been done by saying 58 bodies per day, which is not statistical. Then in terms of the rape, there is a 9.8 per 100,000. Again, is the probability that out of 100,000 people, there is a possibility that 9.8 might be victims of crime. Then attempted murder, we have 5.9 per 100,000. Assault GBH is 37.2 per 100,000. And the common assault is 43.8 per 100,000. And common robbery is 10.9 per 100,000. Next slide. Then continuing with the rest of the 17 community reported crimes, starting with the property related crimes. The only crime that has increased within the 17 community reported crimes for the current quarter is in the property related crimes, which is burglary and non-residential premises, where we recorded an increase of 1,566. And this increase was mainly due to the burglaries that happened at liquor outlets and also burglaries at schools, especially during the level 5 and level 4 of the lockdown. Then burglary at the residential premises, there was a decrease of 16,305. Theft of motor vehicle, a decrease of 6,271. Theft from motor vehicle, a decrease of 13,934. Stock theft, 468, decrease, and overall, the property-related crime decreased by 35,412. Then the last category of the 17 community-reported crimes named other serious crimes, made up of all theft not mentioned elsewhere, decreased by 36,249. Commercial crime decreased by 5,885. Shoplifting decreased by 6,150. And then the broad category of other serious crime decreased by 38,249. And the 17 community reported crime decreased by 135,528. Then the crimes that are regarded as crime detected as a result of police action, ideally they should be on the increase. However, due to the lockdown situation, the police they managed to recover less firearms in terms of illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, where the decrease was 826. Drug-related crimes decreased by 21,197. Driving under the influence by decrease of 18,685. Sexual offences, a decrease of 1,778. And total crime detected as a result of police action decreased by 42,486. Next slide. Then in this slide, we look at the graphical representation of the 17 community reported crimes, where we also mentioned that the period covered was from the 1st of April up to the 30th of June. And if you look down here, we have identified exactly where we were in level 5, because level 5 started on the 27th of March up to until the 30th of April. Then level 4 started on the 1st of May until around up to the 30th of May. Then on the 1st of June, we moved to level 3. What is worth noting is that here, the blue graph indicates the current 17 community reported crimes for the 2020-2021 financial year. And the gray graph indicates the 17 community reported crimes for the financial year 2019-20 quarter 1. Now, what is worth noting is that if you look and compare at the level 5s, there was a decrease of 63,597 between the 2 points. Then as we moved down to level 4, the decrease was starting to become minimal, where at level 4, now the decrease between the previous quarter and the current financial year quarter was only 52,304. Then as we moved to level 3, whereby there was an instance where alcohol was allowed and then closed again off, the decrease is also very minimal, because it's now coming to 19,617. What in essence this graph shows us is that as we moved down the lockdown levels, the levels of crime between the previous quarter and the current quarter started with a very big margin. Then as we moved to level 4, the decrease was becoming smaller and smaller. And as we progressed further to level 3, the decrease was also becoming very minute. We will just have to see what will happen at level 2, because the way the trend is going, it seems as if either the two graphs are going to touch and cross each other, whereby we will then regard as what could have been termed as the normal levels that we were used to in the previous years. Then in terms of the provincial breakdown, all the provinces have recorded a decrease in the 17 community reported crimes. Next slide, Craig. Then on this table, because of the issue related to domestic violence, we also looked at the domestic violence across all the 9 provinces with specific focus on selected number of crimes. Then at the top there, we had a murder, where we looked at the murders that have been reported during the first quarter of the current financial year. We had 112 murders as a result of domestic violence, whereby 65 of the victims were female and 47 were male. And then in terms of the provinces, I think it was KwaZulu-Natal which had the highest number of female of the murders that had happened that were domestic related. Then Eastern Cape was the second highest with 18. Then the Western Cape had 16. Then in terms of the rapes that were domestic violence related, that is in the instance whereby there's a relationship between the victim and the perpetrator. It can be a mother, a father, an uncle, but there is that domestic relationship between the two people. We had 322 rapes that were domestic related. Of these, female were 312 and 10 were male. Then in terms of the province, Gauteng had 70 of domestic related rapes and the Western Cape had 63. Then attempted murders, we had 189, whereby 122 were female victims and 67 were male. Then assault GBH, we had 3,364, whereby 2,413 were female victims and 951 were male. Then common assault, we had 7,518, whereby 6,214 were female and 1,304 were male. Then common robbery, we had 68, whereby 53 were female and 15 were male. Robbery aggravating, 20, 15 female victims and 5 male victims. Malicious damage to property, 2,486, whereby the properties that were female owned was 1,607 and male 879. Burglary, rest 73 and 48, then also theft, all theft not mentioned elsewhere. Then next slide. We also looked at initially we started with the 17 community reported crimes, then we looked at the contact crimes, which are made up of murder, attempted murder, sexual offenses. These are, in essence, crimes against the person. Again, they follow the same trend as the 17 community reported crimes, whereby at level 5, there was a high observable figure of 26,933. As we moved down to level 4, the difference now became only 22,165. And at level 3, the difference is 4,793. Again, the trend is that at level 4, there is big difference. As we move down to level 3, the difference becomes smaller. And as we move down to level 3, it becomes even smaller to an extent that the two graphs almost touch each other. And across all the provinces, the contact crimes have decreased. Next slide. We looked at some categories or causative factors of contact crimes. And again, we observed that argument and misunderstanding for the 3 crimes that we have selected, that is murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH, from a sample of 2,410 counts for murder, and we sampled attempted murder 1,285, and assault GBH, we had a sample of 4,301. If you look at the total number of murders, you can see that this is almost 80% of all the counts that had been reported in the quarter. So we did almost a sample of 80% to determine the causative factors for murder. So arguments, again, were the highest. If you add the 3 numbers here, it shows you that rape, murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH was the contributory factor arguments or misunderstanding. Then 622 was as a result of retaliation or revenge. Then we had the robberies either in a house, business, or street, which resulted in 540. Then we had instances whereby a victim was attacked but it's not regarded as mob justice, because in this instance, it will be whereby 1 or 2 people accuse a person of having stolen or taken their property, and then they beat them up. So it's not regarded as mob justice. So we had 4 murders as a result of such instance. We had 1 attempted murder and 267 assault GBH. Then in mob justice, this is an instance whereby the community will then kill a person in large numbers, where we had 138 people that were killed as a result of mob justice. And then we had 19 attempted murders, and then 90 assault GBH as a result of mob justice. Then gang-related murders, we had 63. and then attempted murders 59, then assault GBH 9. Then we had also instances whereby law enforcement officials were killed in the line of duty. If my memory serves me well, 3 people were police officers and 1 was a security guard who were killed while they were in the line of duty. Then we had also 2 people who were killed as a result of intervening when some of the people that they are known to them were fighting. So they ended up being the victim themselves, whereas they were trying to intervene in a fight. Then during the commission of another crime, we had 10. We excluded especially rape, house robberies, business and street robberies. This can be, again, in an instance whereby maybe a house, somebody burns a house down. There was a case whereby a house was burnt down and 4 people were killed, including a 2-year-old, 2-month child, because of domestic-related issues. And then we had 4 or 5 bodies or 5 people that were killed during that particular assault. Then we had 25 taxi-related murders. Then we had 4 as a result of hijacking, whereby the victim was either trying to resist the being hijacked, or the hijackers simply took it upon themselves to eliminate witnesses, and they killed the victim. Then we had 2 murders as a result of road rage. Then we had 3 rape-related murders. That is in an instance whereby a person is raped and then again they are killed. Then we had 9 murders as a result of illicit mining. Next slide. Next slide. Then we looked at the place of occurrence, again for murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH from the same sample sizes that we used in the previous to determine the causative factors. We saw that 633 murders happened at the residence of either the perpetrator or the victim. 1,184 happened in the public place, either a street or open field. 35 of the murders happened at business premises. 75 at the mode of transport, either a bus, car, or taxi. Agricultural land, which also includes attacks on farms and small holdings. This also includes whereby the women go out and plow the field. The land use is for agricultural purposes, but not necessarily be a farm. Then we had 26 murders as a result of that happened at tuck shops, 1 in a prison cell. Then we had 9 murders happening either at the liquor outlet, either at the shebeen, a pub, a nightclub, or a bottle store. 5 attempted murders at such places, and 31 assault GBH. Then we had 2 murders happening at the government premises. This might include police cells and correctional service facilities and other government department buildings. Then we had 12 murders either at the track or station. We had 10 murders at mining premises, 9 at the petrol station. Mostly would be hit whereby a person would be followed, and then when they get to the petrol station to fill in their car, they get shot and killed. Then 6 were at the lake, river, or dam. 9 happened at the dumping site. Then we had 4 happening at the educational institutions, either a school, university, college, or daycare. And then 3 happening of the murders happening at leisure premises, hotel, gas, and B&Bs. Next slide. Then we looked at the specific cases whereby either the victim or the perpetrator confirmed that at the time when the crime was committed, either the victim or the perpetrator has consumed alcohol, or both had consumed alcohol. There were 284 such cases from a sample of 4,301. We determined that 284 assault GBH, either the victim or the perpetrator mentioned that they were drinking or they had used alcohol. Then 130 rapes where such assertion was made, and 56 murders where such an assertion was made, and also 11 attempted murders. Then at the bottom there, we had the place where it was confirmed that these crimes happened either at the Shebeen or tavern or a pub. 9 murders happened at such facilities. 31 assault GBH happened at such facilities. 5 attempted murders at such facilities, and 2 rapes at such facilities. Next. Then the crime of murder, again keeping in mind that these are the level 5, level 4, and level 3. What we observe again here is that there was a reduction in murder of 939 at level 5. Then at level 4, the reduction was 759, and at level 3, it was 234. Again, as you move down the lockdown levels, the differences between the two curves come closer and closer together. And the murder has decreased across all the 9 provinces. Then next slide. We looked at the causative murder per province, whereas on the other side, we just simply looked at the causative factors. In this instance, we tried to break it down into the provinces and identify which provinces had problems with regard to the specific causative factor that we have observed. KZN, in terms of misunderstanding, was the highest with 40. Western Cape had 35 murders because of arguments, and Eastern Cape had 34. Then mob justice, KwaZulu-Natal was the highest with 42. Gauteng followed with 32. Then house robberies, it was Gauteng with 38 murders resulting from house robberies or business or street. And then Western Cape was the highest in terms of gang-related murders. And then taxi-related murders, again, it was Western Cape with 10. KwaZulu-Natal had 7 taxi-related, and Gauteng also had 7. Illegal mining is more prevalent in the Free State with 5 murders as a result of illegal mining in the Free State. And then we also had road rage, whereby 2 instances happened in the Northern Cape. Next slide. Then the matter of police officials, I have already spoken to the fact that there were 4 people that were killed as a result of being on duty, and that we identified that one was a security member. So the blue graph was for the people that were killed while they were on duty, and the gray graph were the people that were killed while they were off duty. So in total, on 2018-19, we had 17 police officers that were killed. Then in the second, in 2019-20, we had 18, and then in the current financial year, we had 8. Then in terms of the provinces, KwaZulu-Natal had 2, and the other provinces recorded 1 each. Then next slide. Then we had attacks on farms and small holdings. In the current quarter, we had 9 murders that were recorded in quarter 1, April to June. In 2018, we had 11. 2019, we had 13. And then in 2020, quarter 1, we had 9. That is a reduction of 4 counts. However, there were also other crimes that were committed at farms. We had 45 robberies at the residential premises, whereby I think 2 people were also killed during some of these robberies at the residential premises. Then we had 12 attempted murders, we had 3 rapes, we had 14 assault GBH, we had 3 attempted robberies at residential premises, and 9 theft of motor vehicle. Then in terms of the provinces that has recorded increase, it was Gauteng with 1 case more than the previous year, and also the Northern Cape had 1 case more than the previous quarter. The next slide. In the next slide, we looked at the rape. It follows the same trend with all the other crime that we have seen, whereby the differences between the 2 graphs come closer and closer together as we move down the lockdown levels. And all the provinces have recorded decrease with regard to the crime of rape. Next slide. In the next slide, we look at the rape at the places where it occurred, and then we break down by province. We had 870 rapes that happened at the residence of the perpetrator, victim, or including residents known by victim. 122 Eastern Cape were such premises. Gauteng, 229 rapes happened at such premises. KZN, 146 rapes happening at such premises. Then we had public places whereby Gauteng had 88 rapes happening at such premises. Western Cape had 50. KwaZulu-Natal had 47. Then at the leisure premises, we had 1 in the Eastern Cape and 1 in the Western Cape. At the educational institution, the rapes, we had 1 in the Free State, 2 in KwaZulu-Natal, and 1 in the Western Cape. Then nightclubs, liquor outlets, we had 1 in the Free State, and we also had 1 in the Western Cape. And then we had 1 banner each at the petrol station in KwaZulu-Natal and the Northern Cape. Then the next slide, we looked at the trio crimes, which is made up of robbery, res, robbery, non-residential, and carjacking. Again, the trend is the same with all the other crimes, whereby the budgets are becoming smaller and smaller between the 2 quarters. And again, for the trio crimes, all the provinces have recorded decreases. Next slide. Unpacking the trio crimes, we had, because they're made up of carjacking, robbery, res, and robbery non-residential, we had a reduction of carjacking by 1,873, robbery res decreased by 1,208, robbery and non-res decreased by 1,759. Then the next slide, we look at the next slide, we look at the property-related crimes. We have already indicated that burglary at non-residential premises was the only crime that had increased within the category of property-related crimes. I will not go through this as I've already touched on them in the table at the top. Next slide. Then burglary at non-residential premises, it was the only crime that has increased within the broad category of property-related crimes. And most of these crimes happened at level 5, whereby the highest contributory premises were liquor outlets and schools. Here we can see that we had an increase of 1,544 burglaries at non-residential premises, which then went down at level 4 to 61, and then it started increasing again to 83 at the level 3. Then the provinces that had recorded increases was the Eastern Cape with 175, Gauteng had 490 increase, KwaZulu-Natal had 743, Mpumalanga had an increase of 124, Northwest an increase of 39, Northern Cape an increase of 63, Western Cape an increase of 240, and the whole of South Africa had an increase of 1,566. Next slide. Further unpacking the burglaries at non-residential premises, where we indicated that the contributing crimes was burglaries at educational premises, where we had 2,692 burglaries at educational premises, whereby 649 suspects were arrested. Then in terms of the provincial breakdown, the highest province that had the province that had the highest number was KwaZulu-Natal with 651 burglaries at the educational premises. Gauteng had 607. Eastern Cape had 326. Western Cape had 249. And then the rest of the provinces I indicated there. Then, in terms of burglaries at the liquor outlets, we had 1,246, which contributed to the burglaries and non-residential premises increase. And then of those, 537 suspects were charged. The highest province in the burglaries and liquor outlets was Western Cape with 270, Gauteng followed with 228, KwaZulu-Natal with 224, Northwest with 190, Eastern Cape with 107, and the rest of the provinces recorded increases less than 100. Then the last crime that we looked at was the crime of stock theft, which interestingly had a different trajectory compared to the other crime types. Whereby at level 5, the two graphs were almost touching. Then at level 4, they became apart, and then the decrease there was 281, and then at level 3, they almost came together again. And the reason why this had happened, I was informed that there were active operations in the Northwest, which included changing some of the personnel within the stock theft unit. And also in Mpumalanga, there were joint operations with farmers, especially during level 4 lockdown, whereby they observed that at level 5, there was a problem that they put in place operations to try and bring down these increases. And that was what was achieved. And then this brought down the crime, as can be seen there, whereby Mpumalanga had a decrease of 222 cases of stock theft. Northwest has a reduction of 122. Free State has a reduction of 195. Gauteng had a reduction of 20. And the only provinces that had increased was the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, and the Western Cape. And that is the last of the slide of the briefing of the Q1 crime statistics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for quite a comprehensive presentation. Could you remove the slides? Thank you. I'll take the questions. Please do not forget about the questions of Honorable Whitfield during the first round of presentations, because I think those questions are applicable for this presentation as well. I've noted Honorable Groenewald. We'll first take Honorable Peacock, as I had said earlier. Honorable Peacock, and then Honorable Groenewald, Honorable de Blanche. I'm looking for more hands. All right, you may start. Honorable Peacock.
Yes, Chairperson, me, Majosi.
Majosi. So we'll start with Peacock.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to all. Mine would be mostly on the gender-based violence question, but it also relates to crime stats. What I want to find out is how do they deal with the crime against persons with disability, especially those that are visual and verbal, that have visual and verbal impairments. Because when you look at the stats, they do not specifically state how do they deal with that specific section of women or children. And what I want to know also is how are they registered into the gender-based violence register? Is there on the register, does it specify also for them to be included on the register so that they can state their impairments? And with regard to the stats, we expect it to segregate that this, or out of these stats, we are having this amount of women or children that are having a particular impairment. And are police officers well trained also to deal with such issues of women or children that are having specific impairments? I think that's all from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Peacock. Have you raised all your questions on GBV, because it relates to this presentation as well? Honorable Peacock? We've lost her. I'll come back to her. Honorable Groenewald?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, firstly, I want to say that we received the quarterly crime statistics, and I welcome that. I must say that for many, many years, I've asked for quarterly crime statistics. And 2020, it seems, is the year we're full of surprises. So thank you. And the fact that we can receive it now quarterly makes a huge difference, because then we can address the problems that we can identify from these crime statistics. Now, firstly, Chairperson, the question is always how reliable these crime statistics are. And firstly, I want to say it is, as far as I'm concerned, impossible to make a real comparison if you take the first quarter of the previous financial year because of the lockdown. So I won't go into the comparison issue as far as crime statistics are concerned, because we have this unusual situation with this first quarter. But what is important, Honourable Chair, is that the capturing of the crimes on our case administration system, as well as the integrated case docket management system, is the first crucial step to ensure that we have reliable crime statistics. Now, Chairperson, we have many meetings, we have asked questions about the integrated case docket management system. And I want to ask, the first question is, what is the number of our police stations that have implemented the integrated case docket management system? And what are the current challenges with the further rollout of the implementation of the ICDMS? And then I also want to know, when will the case administration system be phased out? My second question, Chairperson, is if we talk about the population ratio, I want to know which population data has been used as far as these quarterly first quarter crime statistics are concerned. My third question, Chairperson, is on the farm attacks and farm murders. And thank you again. I've requested when we received the national crime statistics of the previous year that we also received the attacks on farms, not only the murder rate, but what I want to have some clarity, Chairperson, it's not clear on, if you look at the attacks, because it says 3 attempted robbery at residential premises, 14 assault with gross bodily harm, 3 rapes, 12 attempted murder, 45 robbery at residential premises. Now, I want to know, can I add up all these incidents to say that there's a total of, it seems, around about 90 attacks as far as farm murders are concerned? So I just want to have some clarity on that. And then lastly, Chairperson, I want to know, when we talk about crime statistics, we know that that is an indication on the performance of a specific province, and we have all the provincial commissioners here, and on a specific police station. And I know, Chairperson, and everybody knows, that when crime statistics are gathered, that not all the crime cases are recorded, because if you record too many cases, specifically if I can go to station level, then it indicates that there's a problem, and in a certain sense, it indicates poor performance, which should be wrong. And I want to know how, and I can address this to the Commissioner, how is he going to address this issue to ensure that at police level, station level, that we get all the statistics and not some reported crimes? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Groenewald. And thank you for acknowledging that a number of the requests which we have made in this portfolio committee have actually been responded to. And I think we should acknowledge that. We shouldn't always be on the defensive, and we are certainly not defending SAPS. But the requests we have made as a committee haven't all been responded to, but they certainly, SAPS, they are beginning to respond to the requests of the committee. Now, honourable members, let us not just say that there are weaknesses. Let us start acknowledging that, one, we requested quarterly statistics and we are receiving that now. Two, we requested that provincial commissioners be present in the committee when we ask these questions. I believe Honourable Peacock was quite vociferous in demanding on more than one occasion that the provincial commissioners be in the meeting when we do ask certain questions. So thank you for responding to those requests, and DM as well as the National Commissioner, could you convey this to the Minister as well? I've also now noted Honourable Mapatswe. Before I take Mapatswe, Majosi was third and then Mapatswe. But before I do take you, I would like to concur with Dr. Groenewald on the integrated case docket management system. When will the case administration system be phased out? And what are the current challenges, as Dr. Groenewald had asked, with the further rollout and implementation of the ICDMS? Could we then take Honourable Majosi now?
Thank you, Chair. No, mine is very short. There are no questions as such, because we've received the presentation of the gender-based violence before, and it's just to appreciate that the presentation we're receiving now of the stats, and also to say, can we keep up this good work? It must not be in the case of a lockdown only, or because of we have this pandemic of COVID, now there's visibility. Can we see every day if cars, vehicle, SAPS vehicles are available now? Can they be available every day, whether it is lockdown or not? And the visibility, can it be as much as it is now? that so that people will feel safe in the streets, so that people will be able to communicate also with police. I mean, we've seen very good work that has transpired during the lockdown when police were visiting communities and so forth. And the crime statistics says it all, that is why there is so much decrease in so many instances and crime stats. But we just need to keep the current visibility alive for as long as the SAPS is still there, and we must not then when the lockdown is over and then we start lacking on the visibility that has been there. But my great concern is within the pubs, where crimes and murders maybe and also assaults were happening at most. I'm not sure what is it that we can come up with, but I think that maybe more visibility must be shown, especially in pubs and in hotspot areas where we know that these cases maybe they come from, and then we're able that then there's a police visibility around there, so that people will be able to behave and live according to the law. That is all, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Majosi. Honorable Mapatwe.
What about me, Chairperson?
You are next. I haven't forgotten about you. First Mapatwe and then Ter Blanche.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Just also to join yourself and Honorable Majosi that the department, this is what we expected, that when we play our oversight role, it is to make sure that they do their work in a way that we play our oversight role, and they do respond when we ask questions. I think today's portfolio committee, I must say, DM and also the National Commissioner, from our side, I think you have indeed also gave us more information on the presentations. We really appreciate that. But I just want to ask two questions that, in fact, under lockdown, we have reported that there's been a decrease. And I just want to ask that the lessons, what lessons have you learned about the impact of lockdown restrictions with factors related to crime? Also to say, how do you going to adapt your strategies to combat crime based on the lessons you learned, and also the crimes patterns are expected to normalize with the easing of lockdown restrictions. Will the SAPS be able to contain the gains made during the lockdown? Lastly, Chairperson, is that we said we don't want to politicize the portfolio committee. And under your stewardship, we have managed to achieve that, or we're working towards that. But we have been, under your stewardship, allowed to raise whatever issues, and you always sometimes give more time for members to raise their issues. If time does not allow, you always say we can convene in the next, you can convene the next meeting. But what we just see in the media about Honorable Whitfield and other anonymous members complaining about how the chairperson runs the meeting, that they are not happy. We have a platform here where you give everybody a chance to speak. But if people, honorable members, will go out to the media and complain about you when they don't complain in the committee, they are beginning to politicize this thing, or they do have personal issues about the chairperson. This is a chairperson of the portfolio committee, and we support her chairmanship, and in the manner that she has been running our meetings, she has been running them professionally, and even more biased towards honorable members. But if members are not happy, please raise these issues in the committee. Don't go to the media, because some of us were happy in the manner that she runs the meeting. But if you go to the media and complain about the chairperson without facts, we want to know those facts. Why are you saying the chairperson is not running the meetings correctly? And these anonymous people, please don't come and destroy this family of this portfolio committee. We might disagree, but so far we have been very critical and playing our oversight without fear or favor. And the executive has also been coming on board, responding to our concerns. That is why we're saying today, majority of us, we are happy with the presentations. So please, if you have issues about the chairperson, raise them in the meeting here so that we can be able to engage. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable De Blanche and then Whitfield. Honorable De Blanche, are you there? Thank you.
Chairperson, yes, thank you very much. I also want to thank the police for this presentation again. Chairperson, my first question is, I just want to know what progress are the police making to align our crime stats with international standards? That's my first question, Chairperson. Secondly, Chairperson, I am very happy that we are getting quarterly crime stats now. My question is, to what extent does the department now utilize the information, the crime stats that we're getting, to align our policies and, obviously include that in our approach? And if so, what progress are we making? Has it got a positive impact, or what is the position? Chairperson, then it is a well-known fact that there is quite a percentage of unreported crime. And I just want to get some indication as to maybe the percentage and what impact it's having on, the crime stats as well. Chairperson, and then I think the most important issue is maybe the criminal justice system value chain. I just want to know, I think the ultimate test is, about the efficiency of the SAPS is, and the system then, is the criminal justice value chain. How is this going to assist that? And are we focusing on that? Ultimately, Chairperson, we want to minimize crime and see that perpetrators get behind bars. That is all my questions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, just in response to the allegations leveled against me, I would welcome any links to any articles where I've publicly chastised the committee. But I do want to say that in previous committee meetings, I have expressed a concern, I can draw the minutes for you, about the frequency and the duration of the meetings. I've raised concerns about the minister going to the media before coming to the committee, which the committee has also expressed concerns about. And the one thing I will never do is allow Honorable Mapatswe or anybody else to tell me what I can and cannot say. And I'm happy to go and find those minutes of those meetings, Chair. You've always taken my concerns on board. I have raised them in committee meetings. We've raised them personally. And the one thing I will never do is be an anonymous source. We've dealt with that issue before. I've come clean. I've reported to you. I've told the committee where I've gone to the media. I'm not scared of raising my concerns in the committee, and I'm certainly not going to stop raising them publicly if I feel that they're not being addressed. But I do want to say, Chair, that I think that we can continue to fight for more committee meetings, and I would ask that you continue to do that. Because the fact that SAPS hasn't come and presented their Q4 report is not just an indictment on SAPS, but I think is also a reflection on the committee. And we must make sure that we continue to strive to work hard to make sure that SAPS is accountable. We are moving towards the Q2 in the new financial year, and we haven't even dealt with Q4 of the previous financial year. And so I will raise these issues, Chair. I'll continue to raise them, but I'm afraid that I'm not going to be censored or silenced by Honourable Mapatswe. Thank you.
Honourable Chair.
Could we please deal with this later and focus on the crime stats? Honourable Mapatswe, I have listened to both of you. I think it is quite fair that you do realize we are working quite hard to get additional time, to get additional meetings, and we have definitely raised the matter of the Q4 performance report. As SAPS has said, they will be ready with it, and as soon as they are ready, we'll receive that. So I think your concerns have been attended to. It is just that some members are completely sometimes impatient, and I do hope you realize that during this time of lockdown, it is not that easy to just have the business as usual, and we are constrained by the opportunities we do have to have these virtual meetings. That was the last question. I'm going to take the Deputy Minister and then the National Commissioner. Deputy Minister?
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Chair. I hope I'm audible.
A bit of an echo, DM, but we can hear you.
Okay. No, thanks very much, Chair and the members of the committee. Appreciating as well the fact that we are linked with our provinces today as we appear before you as a committee. We take note of the concerns that members have raised, and of course we appreciate the positive note all members have given in terms of appreciating the report that we have presented to you in the form of statistics through General Sukune, and that there are issues that you will want us to do, which you have also raised with us on the gender-based violence. We note that, and we'll definitely go back with the leadership of SAPS to improve on the things that you have raised, and to ensure that we respond to the concerns of the committee. I must reiterate that the Minister, myself, and the National Commissioner and the team, we take very seriously the comments that members made and your recommendation in this platform. We don't take them for granted, and we'll follow up on those things that you have requested us to do, and those that you have requested us to work on will definitely do that, because we believe that our success as a committee is based on, as a department, is based on how best we collaborate with the committee, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Please allow me to ask General Stock, and the team to lead responding to some issues that have been raised. Thank you, Chair, and through you, may we allow the National Commission to come in.
Thank you very much. You may continue, National Commissioner Sithole.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for the lead. Chair, the few strategic responses that I will take, I would like to start with the lessons learned out of this outcome display of the crime stats. Maybe as SAPS, we would like to actually convey our message of appreciation to all the disciplines which have actually played a role here. So the major lesson that we have learned is that the outcome of these crime stats has been a 6-in-1 package, which has been executed collectively. Firstly, there's been a high density integrated policing throughout the lockdown by all security forces, which include the defense, the metros, even security companies has been cooperating with us. So that has been a high level of sustained visibility. That has been our first strong point. The second part of the package has been the enhanced multidisciplinary collaboration. I think the Deputy Minister has just been acknowledging our collaboration with the committee. But we have, during the lockdown, received the highest level of cooperation through other government departments, which was coordinated through the NAT joints. And that particular collaboration is still in place as I'm speaking. Then there has been a collective response to the root cause metrics. As we have been identifying the root causes at NAT joints level, the other departments were taking the responses at the same time. They will respond to those particular root causes. Now, as a result of that, very little chance was given for modus operandi development and for criminal operations to take place as a result of this particular cooperation, because root causes were removed immediately. Then we also want to acknowledge the community of South Africa. I think during lockdown, there has been a display of very high norms and values with very good societal behavior displayed. This made things extremely difficult for criminals to exploit the societal situations. And as a result, it was difficult for them to find certain targets. Then there has been a modus operandi suffocation during the lockdown. I think in view of the highly removed root causes, I think there was less opportunities and a non-conducive climate for exploitation of root causes for criminals to invent new modus operandi. Then the biggest strength is that there's also been integration of resources. There was no single agency that would complain or not perform as a result of the fact that there has been no resources. We integrated the resources everywhere. In the roadblocks, all the expected disciplines were there, and we were everywhere together. And that has been lesson number one. Lesson number two, I think we also had the 3-cylinder basic policing firing model. I think since our basic policing model has got 3 dimensions, we've got strategic policing, innovative policing, as well as basic policing principles. I think all the time we've been following the hard approach and relying on the hard approach through basic policing principles. But we've been doing a little bit of innovative policing, which is through modernization and as well as modus operandi analysis. But the cylinder that has not been firing is the strategic policing cylinder, which require multidisciplinary collaboration. Now, during the lockdown, this is the cylinder that fired the most. And all 3 of these cylinders were firing almost equally, but the highest impact came from the strategic policing cylinder. This is what we would like to try and maintain, because as we are fighting crime, there are those who must remove the root causes, and there are those particular situations which societal norms and behaviors should make it difficult for criminals that is to exploit. So then the other question that I wanted to relate to, it's the performance of police stations with regard to the crime stats. And the question was, how are we going to try manage this or correct it? I think firstly, what I want to indicate is that the crime stats meaning to the police station is not only on the crime performance and how much crime weight relate to the police station, but we have, after the design and execution of the integrated resource management strategy, pointed out even to police stations that the recording of crime has got a bearing on the resourcing of that particular police station. If the crime is not correctly recorded, the resourcing becomes skewed, and that police station can be under-resourced. The same applies to the province. So all that message is out to all of them. Then secondly, I think as crime is also getting recorded, we also do root cause analysis and look at what causes the crime rate to go higher. And then we then undertake other exercises, especially at the level of the cluster, to remove those root causes. And they got the message that such root causes cannot be removed if we hide, that is the recording of crime. Then the population growth also impact directly on the crime rate and as well as the personnel plan of the police station. Now, if we don't record the crime correctly, the personnel plan may not grow, and as a result, that police station will be under-resourced. Once it's under-resourced personnel-wise, then it impacts on the physical resources. But in terms of how we're going to cap this, firstly, we've integrated the monitoring and evaluation of police stations and all other institutions as far as the crime state is concerned into the performance management system of the South African Police Service. So it's going to be part and parcel of the performance management system. Secondly, we've activated community policing to work together with us. So it's part and parcel of the community policing strategy. They assist us with that. Then in the response plan for crime stats, we also identify the hotspots police stations and other areas so that we zoom into them. We go to an extent of sending inspectorate and visible policing to check on those particular police stations. The last one, I would bring it as an appeal to say, because we are aware that the portfolio committee also usually undertake the outreach monitoring visits to certain police station areas, is that we will then give maximum support and cooperation in terms of what the portfolio committee would want to see when they go to such police stations, but will also provide a prompt response to any report that comes from that, so that we link it to the internal oversight of SAPS, the external, which include the secretariat, and we will hold people accountable with regard to the monitoring reports. Then I wanted to then relate to the unreported crimes, the bearing they have on the statistics. I just want to say at the moment that there are certain studies, some of them they are undertaken by Stats SA, and then there's other institutions which undertake such studies. What we have started doing is to look at the findings of such studies so that we make them part and parcel of our response. And this includes the reconciliation process that we have instructed to take place between us and the Gender-Based Violence Committee, because there's a different tool that measures, that is the reporting of gender-based violence, that is crimes there. Then with regard to the criminal justice value chain, firstly, SAPS has gone into an integrated plan with NPA, and we have, as a cluster, activated the criminal justice cluster and created an integrated response, which include the resourcing that is to crime. So this is what exists within the criminal justice value chain. And our approach is we look at which is the weak link of the criminal justice value chain, and we all cooperate to support that weak link, because it's going to impact all of us. Then, Honorable Chair, the other questions I can, with your permission, then allow the operatives to respond to. And those that we may not be able to respond to, then due to time, we might then also revert to responding in writing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, General Sithole. And General, could you maybe choose selectively who should still respond? Because they've given us an additional 15 minutes, which means you still have 10 minutes. So could you please indicate from your team who you would like to respond? Please request who should speak.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe because there's been previous questions on gender-based violence, I may start by requesting that Lieutenant General Sempe provide responses, followed by Divisional Commissioner Musikidi, the General Musikidi, on gender-based violence. Then at the closure, we can then afford the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection and the Lieutenant General Ngwenya and Vuma. Then we can close in that order, Chair, with your permission. General Sempe, I'm sure you can proceed.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and members, the DM and the National Commissioner, including the SAPS senior management. Chair, I will start with the question that relates to the campaigns. When are they going to start? We have started, as the National Commissioner indicated. The first one was led by the DM, together with the National Commissioner, on the 24th of this month. That was on Monday, on the television program called Expression, as well as 404, including the number of radio stations. Then the Minister will also be leading the second campaign. Other campaigns will be done in the provinces, and we will report when we come back to this committee in terms of progress made in terms of these campaigns. Honorable Reverend Miche also related to the provincial committees. These particular provincial committees and the National High-Level Gender-Based Committee, we will be establishing the same principles.
It's more composed of members of the South African Police Service, as well as the Women Network and the Men's Forum. So there will be no stipends paid because they are more internal. Their work will be in the main to ensure that this particular plan that we have presented here is monitored, is implemented, and quite a number of issues, including commissioning research on gender-based violence, monitoring performance on gender-based violence matters and targets, ensuring that this domestic violence data and reports are generated when necessary, the monitoring of investigation of gender-based violence cases, and other things that we have indicated in the establishment document. The programs are more about educating communities. I think there was a question to say, what is these programs about? They are more educative in nature. So that is why that we will be engaging in these particular educative programs. Then the last one, I think from my side, will be about the system, why the integrated case docket management system, the reasons why this particular system is not being used optimally. Currently, we are experiencing a slow performance in terms of this particular system. We were also informed by TMS that the scanning solution is also giving some challenges. So these particular challenges are technical in nature, but we believe that at the end of the day, we'll be able to surmount all these particular challenges. So we cannot at this point in time be able to indicate when will CAS be phased out. I think at the time when we have dealt with the technical nature of these particular challenges regarding the ICDMS, we'll be in a position to deal with the other system, the phasing out of the other system. Then from the point of view of the National Crime Combating Forum, in terms of the lessons learned, we have also commissioned a research to begin to understand what transpired around crime during the lockdown period. The study is underway now. We have approved the research proposal. I think at the right time when the team is done, we'll be able to present the findings and draw some lessons from that particular study. It will be an integrated type of a study that will be done by SAPS as well as the other research institutions. So it's a collaborative type of a study. Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Lieutenant General Musikiti. Let me start off by greetings and greetings to honorable members, the GM, the national commissioners, all protocol observed. Chairperson, I have the issues that I will respond to at this point in time. Will start first with the matter that was raised by Honorable Mishwe on the profiling of perpetrators and the fact that how is this undertaken to avoid arresting wrong people or labeling people incorrectly. The profiling of the suspect is done on the information that is available on our systems. If a person gets arrested, we run the profiling, including looking at what he has committed previously and what are the issues at the current status, the analysis of the modus operandi of how the case has been committed. So when all these processes have been correctly followed, there is no way that a person will be tagged with or ranked with the rank that does not define him or her. The second issue is relating to what happens when a person violates the bail. I must indicate and put on record that there are very strict processes that are followed for a person who perpetrates crimes against women and children in general to be released on bail. It will be done under a very strict processes that will be undertaken, and if that happens, that a person receives or is released on bail, there will be a very strict bail condition, and it is done in a very limited conditions or situation where a person that has perpetrated this type of crime, especially where a victim is a minor, that he will be released on bail. However, if it happens that that particular individual has received a bail, there is a adherence that has to be observed on the bail condition. If that particular individual do not adhere to the given bail condition, it is revoked as soon as possible, and the report must be forwarded to the investigating officer as soon as possible. It does not even have to wait for the next court appearance, so that the person can be put back inside if those bail conditions have been violated, and he will then be dealt with according to the strict bail conditions that were set in terms of him having to be released. I think we even have received a very clear direction from the president that, including the issue of the parole, these particular individuals do not get pardoned when the parole condition, the parole regime come into place. So the people that perpetrated on the crimes against women and children do not get released that easy. There was a question, Honorable Chair, by Honorable Groenewald relating to what happens when people get chased away from the police stations. I think we as the organization, we have put a very strict monitoring and compliance to the rule. And if the person happened to do this, it must be reported immediately, and the investigation will be kickstarted. The internal investigation, it kickstarted as soon as the report happens. And I think we do have cases that we can relate to where this happened, and members get expeditious processes. And as the minister and the national commissioner indicated earlier, that provincial commissioners are amongst us. They know what needs to happen when these issues happen at the police station, and we have cases that we can refer to that were successfully handled. The recent being in the Western Cape, where that a member was dealt with in terms of expeditious processes. On the issues that were raised by Honorable Mapatwe on the partnerships, I think General did indicated, the National Commissioner did indicated that we are having integrated approach, especially on the issues of gender-based violence. We work hand in glove with NPA. There will be pockets of challenges there and there at the operational levels, but when this gets reported, we do have forums that are sitting weekly, with some on the implementation of the National Strategic Plan, which I am sitting with other departments representing the organization, SAPS organization. There are also forums that has been there, the SORMA forums, where other departments are chairpersons, where we're looking at the challenges, the provincial efficiency monitoring systems that are chaired by the Chief Justice, but by the Justice in the provinces. They are also monitoring where we have this type of challenges, where the working relations between the two or any other department that has a role to play on gender-based violence come into play. There was an issue again that was raised by Honorable Peacock regarding how the organization deal with the persons with disability. I think I just want to come on this one, Chairperson, not necessarily to respond to what goes into the reporting. I was just coming to sensitize or advise that where we have the FCS units, we also have forensic social workers that are also assisting to deal with the victims that are having challenges. So where we picked up a person that is having a disability and whatever type of this impairment, we then have deploy the forensic social workers to deal with, from taking of the statements and recording of any challenges that might come on that particular victim, and assistance going to court. It will go with the forensic social worker where needed, or we will utilize the social workers that are dedicated to the sexual offences courts or domestic violence courts. When they get to court, then they will be in the presence of the social worker so that they can be assisted to take matters at that stage. I think from my side, Chairperson, National Commissioner, this will be the issues that I have recorded. If there are any other outstanding issues, as the National Commissioner has requested, they will be responded to as soon as that as possible. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. National Commissioner, we've already gone over. We requested an additional 15 minutes. So could your people be brief so that we then have to conclude the meeting? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Maybe, Honorable Chair, just in 2 minutes, General Skukuni can respond to the statistical questions.
Agreed.
General Skukuni.
I'm unmuting National Commissioner. Am I audible?
Yes, you can proceed.
So the question that was asked was the population estimate that we used. We used the 2017 mid-year population estimate that we obtained from Status A. We computed the rate, submitted them back to Status A, and then they verified that this is the correct series to use to compute the rates. They just project them, but the model that they designed was from the 2017. So that is the population estimate that we have used. And with regard to the charges, yes, there were 95 charges of crimes at small holdings and farms that included those murders. And in the 45 robberies at residential premises, 2 people were killed, and I guess there was also an instance whereby a theft of motor vehicle also happened. Then there was the issue of the comparison with international standards. We can safely say that we've been continuously implementing and aligning the SAPS crime statistics to the international crime classification for statistical purposes. And we've been doing that over the years. And every year when we publish, yes, we do go to the data quality assessment team for clearance, and we get subjected to a document called the South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework, which has a number of indicators that need to be complied with for the statistics to be certified and regarded as official statistics. And we meet most of those indicators. However, there is a concern that maybe I need to raise to the portfolio committee at this point in time, which says with regard to the indicator called accessibility, which is 4.6 in the very same document that I am referring to. That indicator, I'm going to quote it. It says that the statistics should be made available to all users at the same time. And for official statistics purpose, the indicator says that statistics are always made available to all users at the same time. However, what I'm concerned about is that Status A raised the issue that it seems as if we are not following this indicator to the T, because we first go to the portfolio committee and then we go to the public, and that violates the accessibility dimension. And hence, they have requested that we have a meeting on Thursday to discuss the issue in terms of how can we best comply with this indicator 4.6 of the accessibility dimension. And we have also complied with the other recommendation that they made, which is indicator 4.5, which says that statistics are released on a pre-announced schedule. We do have the pre-announced schedule whereby each and every date on which the quota will be released is made available. It has been signed off by the Minister and the National Commissioner, and we intend to comply with it. Hence, that's why we released on the 14th of October, in the first 14th of August, in line with that pre-released calendar. And I guess that's those are the issues that I could cover with regard to the statistics. Thank you, National Commission.
Thank you very much, Chair. The last one is 3 minutes, 1 minute each to the Deputy National Commissioners. I can, with your permission, proceed to Fazi.
General Setole, we are going to be cut off soon, so I'm pushing my luck. Let them continue, but we absolutely have to finish by 12:30. So I'm pushing my luck. Let them speak.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. General, strictly 1 minute. The floor is open, Generals.
Thank you, National Commissioner. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members. A special greeting to the honorable women members. Happy Women's Month. Honorable Chair, there was a question that General Msikidi touched on as well, responded to, in terms of persons with, how do we ensure persons with disability are serviced. Honorable Chair, I can indicate that we have already ensured the training of 1,576 members who are able to interpret and communicate through sign language. But also in terms of focus area 2 of the strategy towards the fight against gender-based violence, we have indicated that we are going to conduct a gap analysis in terms of the trained members, also on issues of human rights, which amongst others will include areas of dealing with persons with disability. There was also a question that was asked earlier that talks to the number of social workers who will be deployed to fight towards the FCS. I must indicate that in this financial year, we had a total of 475 members who were deployed to the FCS unit. 288, as indicated, were deployed recently in August after completion of the experiential learning, and 24 of them will be laterally transferred. There is also 176 forensic analysts who were also deployed to the forensic to the FCS units, and also 11 forensic analysts were deployed to forensic to the FCS. We also received, for this financial year, we received a request of 121 forensic analysts, which we are going to ensure that they are allocated in this financial year. And also we will be training 1,215 in terms of how to deal with gender-based violence related cases. I must also indicate that in terms of members who will be undergoing training effective the 1st of October, the 3,000, all of them who will be undergoing basic training. In the basic training, we have the curricula include programs that talks to the fight against gender-based violence, your Domestic Violence Act, Child Justice Act, human rights policing, victim empowerment, vulnerable children, etc. And also, Chairperson, to add towards enhancing the fight against gender-based violence, as women within the South African Police Service, in our 5-year women agenda, which was launched in 2018, we have Pillar 5 that talks specifically to the fight against gender-based violence. This was in response after we had an Indaba in 2016 where we came up with the 6-point plan, which are attached at every client service center. We realized that still we were encountering situations where victims will be encountering challenges at the client service centers. So as women, we came up with the pillar where we are saying, amongst others, we are going to ensure that we ensure that members that are at the client service center are enhanced in terms of their training, but also they are going to be made to account for that which they will not have done in line with the book in the client service center. There was also an issue that was raised in terms of gender-based violence, since it occurs behind closed bars. There is also a pillar that talks to the empowerment of communities through community outreach programs. That is what within the South African Police Service.
My apologies. Can we finish now, please?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I will pause. There are a number of other pillars we will share the other day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last person.
Chair.
You may continue.
Chairperson.
Yes.
I thought we have gone beyond the time given.
Yes, we have.
Wherein we get cut without closing the meeting properly.
Yes.
Let's agree that the leadership of SAPS have responded appropriately, and that if there are issues that the committee will want further engagement, we are open to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DM. It's your own people who are really today, they are very excited to speak. So, General Sitole, you know, even the general really wants to speak. I try and push my luck to get the general and his people to speak. Yeah. On that note, Deputy Minister General Sitole and your team, honorable members, thank you very much for this opportunity. Honorable Dr. Groenewald, you have the wisdom of age, but you also have given us the opportunity of your institutional memory. And I think that experience which you have, the institutional memory that you bring to this committee, is exceptional. I take note of the fact that you have been requesting the statistics, the quarterly statistics for about more than 10 years. I didn't want to say 20 years. So Dr. Groenewald, I think that you can say that before you left, that request was honored. I'm very happy to tell you, you should be pleased that your request has been honored. We've worked very hard on this, and the National Minister, Deputy Minister, General Sitole, thank you for this. The second letter.
Can I say thank you, Chair, but you can make it 20 years. There's nothing wrong with the 20 years.
I didn't, General, Dr. Groenewald, I don't want to get into that. But then again, you have been requesting for a very long time that we look at the rural crime statistics and that we have a rural crime strategy for fighting rural crime. We've been able to get this as well So I think this is another achievement. It's another target which we set, and we can say that we've achieved this as well as a committee. Then we have a full representation of provincial commissioners. Thank you very much, DM, for this. Lastly, I think we've also put pressure on SAPS to give us the quarterly performance reports on time, and I'm convinced that we'll achieve this objective and that this outcome will also be met. Honorable members, I thank you for your time. The meeting is now adjourned until next time. Thank you very much, DM. Thank you very much, General Sithole. Thank you very much, members. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you,
Don't
Chair.
leave the chair.
Thank you, Chair.